now it's time to look at actually a conversation with three men who from very different walks of life. One leads Monzo, the other's an influencer, the third's an entrepreneur, actually shared their perspectives as digital Desis who have deeply influenced their own spaces professionally, but also in the world of creative space. And to introduce them and to be in conversation with them, I want to welcome on the stage my friend and senior journalist. She's been with Bloomberg and CNN. Please put your hands together for Mallika Kapur. I want to show Mallika some love, guys. And this is for you. I'm going to hand it over to Mallika, who will introduce our guests now. I know one of them is stuck in traffic.
Yes.
We'll bring him on as soon as he's here.
Perfect. Great. Thank you, Barkha.
Yeah.
It's this side. Barkha and I were in journalism school together. We go back a long way. We've spent many overnight shifts hunkered over a computer in a lab. Great. So when Barkha and her team and I, we were envisioning today's program, we were thinking about whether we want to do a session on digital Desis, people who have mastered the digital space to supercharge their careers, or a session on male allies, male champions. And then we got lucky because we have an incredible cast of characters in our next panel, and they've done both. So please join me in welcoming T.S. Anil, the CEO of Monzo, Akash Mehta, the CEO of Fable Mane, and Rahi Chadda, who is a content creator and a model and one of the most followed South Asian models online. Great, please. Please. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
It's great to have you all with us. And yes, the first time we've had men on stage this morning. So you're in a good position.
No bad thing.
No bad thing. I want to begin with you, T.S. What does being, or should I give you a minute since you've just literally run onto stage?
Give me a minute.
I'll give you a minute.
We'll start with Akash.
Let's start with Akash, exactly. Akash, I'm curious, how has your South Asian culture and your heritage influenced what it means to you to be a male who champions women?
Oh, I love that question. So growing up, I'll be honest, I was always a lot more feminine in energy. And being a South Asian male, being more feminine, it's often not a good thing. You get told by a lot of aunties, and especially uncles, like, tone it down, you can't be that feminine. And it was my sister, who I think from my mum got this, that she explained, we all have an inner Shakti and an inner Shiva. And Shiva is your masculine energy, and Shakti is your feminine energy. And for me, that was so beautiful to hear it from someone so close to me like my sister, like, embrace it. That's your super gift, that you are able to have more feminine energy that maybe can connect you more with traditionally more women who have more Shakti within them. So I think, having this South Asian heritage, this culture, and having my family kind of teach me this from a young age made me kind of have solace around women a lot more, and I felt a lot more safer around them. So I think since a child, they've been my tribe, and very proud today to have a company with, majority women. Yeah, so that's basically why.
And Rahi, in your world, which is very, very glamorous, and it's a world of extreme luxury and glamour, that's what that's what the persona is. What does male allyship look like in that sector?
For me, I would interpret male allyship as being a brotherhood. I know in the context of today, it's really about, men and women, but I feel for me, allyship is really about brotherhood and how men can come together to support one another. I feel it's a very broad context.
Yeah.
For instance, Akash and I have a male allyship. We have a friendship, we have a bond, we support each other. But it goes beyond that. It's also about how our upbringing has influenced us, how the women in our life have shaped us. For Akash, he said that's his sister, predominantly. For me, it's my mother, and the values that she's taught me, the strength that she's taught me. It's a very broad context, but I think it's a very important topic to discuss, and it's something where we should really talk about how men can nurture each other, create a space of emotional intelligence, whilst at the same time not being afraid to express their vulnerabilities and to really show a side of them that can inspire other men.
You know, I'm really glad you brought that point up about being a male ally can also just mean men supporting men. Because immediately when you think of male allyship, you think of men supporting women, and masculinity can come in various forms as well.
It's a
right?
spectrum.
It's a spectrum, exactly.
You know? Yeah, and that's what's so beautiful about understanding masculinity, not from a toxic perspective, not from
Yeah.
something which is, you know, thank you. It's really about how can we raise our men to really appreciate women and to, thank you.
Yeah, and TS, you work in a sector very different from theirs. You are the CEO of Monzo, Britain's largest digital bank. How has your understanding of what it means to be a male ally developed over time? And as the CEO of a company, I'm sure that looks different. You have to think about it differently.
Yeah, first off, Mallika, thank you for giving me the 30 seconds to catch my breath because I came literally running on. Horrible traffic in Barkha was killing time as well, so sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
So my journey of allyship, like both of them, starts with a strong mom who worked a 9 to 6 job her whole life, really hard job, but she also, like all the women of her generation, and actually even now, burned at both ends. She was every
Yeah.
bit a full-time mom and a wife and taking care of us and everything else while holding down a really difficult job. So, you see strength and you learn to respect it and respect it everywhere it comes, right? But to your question about my journey of allyship, I think it's a few things. One, certainly in how we live our lives and the choices we make personally. In the context of my work, it's at two levels. It's about how we can support our women customers, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, and women colleagues, right? And that allyship, therefore, just pervades everything that you do. In the context of Monzo and our customers, right, the number of things we build that try and demystify money, that abstract away the complexity so that people can make sense of their money. And what that means for women is actually even more powerful most often because women have been sort of excluded from the financial sort of inclusion of, not just in terms of giving them accounts, but in terms of teaching people, right, how to manage money for so long that the gap there is even wider.
Yeah.
Like we launched a product on, helping people invest money, right? And 45% of the people joining were first-time women, right? So because women have traditionally been told that, investing is something the other sex does or your partner does or someone else takes care of.
Leave
right?
it to dad, leave it to the husband.
Exactly that, right? So for our customers, we're constantly building amazing tools that help them stay on top of their money. But it goes beyond that. So in our app, we have the Share With Us feature, which was built to have customers tell us about a money problem that they're having. Mm-hmm. But over the years, that feature has been used for women to report domestic abuse or economic abuse crime as well. So we actually have 7. So even just a few days ago, right, we get maybe 6 to 10 of these a day where someone discreetly in the app does a share with us, and we reach out to the emergency services, right, and give them access to credit. There was one woman who had escaped domestic abuse and had gone 200 miles from her home, and then she used the Share With Us feature, and we got her help, right? So the idea being that, look, we're the bank, we sort of sit in the front of your financial life, and we want to give you the tools to manage it better, but it transcends so many different adjacencies where you can have an impact.
Yes, how many of Monzo's customers are women? I mean, just as a percentage.
Half our customers are women.
It is half?
Half our customers are women, and which is exciting. Actually, here's a more exciting stat. Almost 40, so we also bank small businesses, and 40% of our small businesses are women-owned enterprises.
Wow.
Right? Which for the UK, that number is 15%, but it tells you that if you build something that actually treats people the way they want to be treated and give them the tools to manage it, right, you have disproportionate impact.
That's phenomenal. Like Barkha, I've been a journalist for a while, and I'm always struck when I interview really strong male leaders. more often than not, people will talk about the influence of a female member in the family. Rahi, I'm going to come back to you because I want you to share with the audience just how much of an impact your mom has had on your personal journey. You've broken molds. You've gone to a place, you're one of the most followed South Asian influencers online globally. And you say a lot of this is thanks to mom.
Always.
Always. So tell us
Always.
about your mom.
What can I say? I think what I really loved about her was her drive and conviction. I think, like a lot of people in this audience, I was born to immigrant parents, who come from South Asian backgrounds. They don't have much, but they've come to the West because they want to have a better life and they also want to support the families back home. I think that's a very common story that many people in the audience will share. But what I love about that generation in particular, of course, they didn't have social media, but they had a very strong survival instinct. And, that's something that, my parents have, especially mum. And I think that when it came to me choosing a career that was just all about being a creative, that was something so out of her comfort zone. It was so out of her depth. I mean, she knew I was always a very flamboyant child to deal with. But, she was so supportive and encouraging of that. And I wouldn't say my dad was so supportive in the beginning, but, they come around to the idea. But for her, it was really about whatever you want to do, just do it, but make sure you're in it to win it. Like, this just can't be a phase in your life. If you're gonna have this career, really, of course, have conviction, but be very serious about it. And I really appreciate having that energy in my life up until today. It's that, parents can play a very big role, but not just parents. Like Akash and I discuss this all the time, having just one ally or one person who supports you or really sees that vision in your journey and can be that voice of reason and can give you that clarity. It's like they can be your unpaid therapist, and then as you
thank
do
God for that.
right, exactly,
Yeah.
thank God. And of course we show gratitude for that, but as you achieve certain accolades in your life, you always have to give thanks to that one particular energy, and mum is just that energy in my life.
That's fabulous.
Thank you.
Before I move on to Akash, I have a question for the audience. And I'd love you to raise your hands if you've had a nani or a dadi oil your hair when you were a kid, right? Yeah. And they've told you stories while doing that, right? And that is really the inspiration behind Fable and Mane, isn't it? That's where it started. So again, you have a strong female inspiration over there. I'm really curious, how do you take this really ancient, rich, rather sensorial Ayurvedic experience, and capture that and turn that into a digitally forward brand for a global audience? How do you translate what this audience understands about Nani Dadi oiling your hair to a global audience?
So I think the first is, and it's exactly how we started Fable and Mane, we spent more time on the kind of why and the purpose of what we wanted to do and see in this world, not the products. This wasn't really a business. So for us, me and my sister thought about that 4,000, 5,000 year legacy of Ayurveda that when I was a little baby, I just understood as like my nanny's secret, recipes or magic potions. Over time, you realize this is something being passed down by generations. So when we created Fable and Mane, we thought, well, that kind of simplicity of just not overthinking it and keeping true to your authentic roots and just letting it grow on its own and not being like it's daunting, just me and my sister have to do it. It's all of us are doing it, all our community that's building Fable and Mane with us. And what I thought about, which I think was quite a game-changing moment, was Ayurveda 4,000 years, 2,000 years, 1,000 years. No one was overthinking it then. It was just part of the journey of what we now know as Ayurveda. So maybe today, if we just do what we're doing in a very digitally native world, social media, we're trying to think about all the generations from Gen Alpha, Gen Z, millennials. We're thinking, well, maybe in 100 years, someone will say Ayurveda is Fable and Mane to them. It's not something 3,000 years, 2,000 years. So we don't have to put too much pressure on ourselves. We just have to exist with that authenticity and just chill, have fun, and be unapologetically us. And that's what we do. And that's something, again, my sister's taught me. I'm the corporately trained. I worked in like big brands, and I was like, but it has to be carved out and it should be on paper. And Nikki was like, relax, just chill. Nani, somewhere up there, will be looking down and protecting us no matter what. And she's done that. So.
T.S., I want to come back. I know you wanted to get to the point you were going to make about what Monzo is doing to support your women employees. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so look, we're on this mission to build how a bank where people change their relationship with money completely. And so therefore that's for our customers, but also for our colleagues, right? And so what it means for us as it relates to our women colleagues is a whole bunch of policies which are clearly at the front end of what I think the world should be doing. So for example, obviously, caregiver leave, parent leave and stuff we've had, like everybody has for a long time, obviously it's much longer and so on. But in addition, it's also knowing that there are other moments that need care. So pregnancy loss policy, right? So we allow for care leave when someone has a pregnancy loss, whether it's elected or not, by the way.
That's
right?
great. Yes.
And that's kind of important because one of the things that we did, which I hadn't realized how impactful it would be, but I actually had a woman colleague tell me that the fact that pregnancy loss in and of itself is a thing, but also if we elect to do it, right, even that is taking the taboo out of it and creating a context where someone can make the choice and get the care that they need.
And there's no judgment.
And there's no judgment, right?
Yes.
And so there's policies like that, and we obviously extend that policy to the partners as well.
Is that a new policy?
We've had it for 3 or 4 years now.
So fairly new, okay.
Yeah, fairly new, absolutely. I mean, the company is new.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's been around for 3 or 4 years. So it's a bunch of policies like that. It's a bunch of making sure that it's possible to have real conversations about anything authentically, right? And I'll give you an example of one particularly interesting and difficult one, which points to the fact that even though the last few decades have seen enormous progress from the perspective of women inclusion, women rights, and so on, I think we all know that it's not evenly distributed, right? So even in the most advanced companies, most advanced societies, you'll find stuff that just makes no sense, right? And so on. But despite that, we're also grappling with problems that are, in some senses, more evolved problems. For example, menopause in the workplace.
It's
right?
become such a big issue now. I mean, it's about time,
Right.
and I'm glad you're addressing that.
So here's the thing with that, right? And this is an allyship in both directions, right? Because this is one of those topics where, as a male manager, it's important to be able to figure out how you want to have that conversation with a female colleague. But also it's about the female colleague themselves, because for so long, women have fought to be equal that the idea of bringing it up and saying I need some accommodation because of it is anathema, because people feel like, oh my God, that means I'll be judged. It means, somehow I'm not equal in the workplace. Somehow it seems like I'm not committed. Like all of those barriers that are in the woman's head are just as real as the man's awkwardness or ignorance or inability to have that conversation. So the first time I had to have that conversation was a moment for me.
How did you do?
It was great. The irony was that it's one of those things that, you bring up the conversation and suddenly magically it's the most easy thing to talk about, right? But until you do, it's the hardest thing. So I asked this colleague of mine, I said, like, look, I don't know what I don't know. So, just know that you can ask me for what you think what accommodation you might need. And my first thought was, and this was it's a strong woman colleague, and my first thought was she's going to be dismissive about it and say, like, what the hell, what do you mean, why are you asking me that? Like, am I not showing up like you want me to or whatever else? But it was not. She was like, oh yeah, I'm really glad you asked it, but no, I'm fine, and I'll tell you if I need something. I said, great, right? So just the
fact that
the fact that it's a conversation on both directions, by the way, right? So I could be as open to having it, but if the woman colleague receiving it is somehow, has chips on her shoulder about being able to have a conversation about it, it cuts both ways.
Absolutely, absolutely. Rahi, you use digital platforms so well. I have to say, over the last couple of days, I have been trawling through all your social feeds.
I love that for me.
I have to catch up.
You have to. It is worth it. But I think you do such a great job of letting the person who is viewing you through your social feeds really get a feeling that they understand you. And I mean, you have 1.6 million followers on Instagram. That is staggering, right? And people really believe they get to know you. What are some of the strategies you use to present yourself in such an authentic way, to present yourself as a model, as a content creator, as somebody who's proud of his Indianness? How do you do that?
I'm still figuring it out.
Share some of the early secrets.
You know, when I started social media 12 years ago now, there were no brand partnerships. There was a lot of uncertainty, as with anything new that you're starting. I think I did have clarity in like the direction I wanted to take, but through the journey, you just figure it out. And I can't really take all of the credit. I have really been blessed with some really amazing colleagues and managers and agents who really have shaped, I would say, the direction, the path for me. I've met some incredible PRs and just brands that have really seen the vision, and that, you know, like when Akash was at Dior Beauty, for instance, he was such a champion for South Asian creatives to really have a voice. And similarly, I've just been really lucky to be in rooms where people have just seen potential and wanted to give me that opportunity. And I think that's really helped shape my journey and continues to do it today. What I would say, though, is consistency in whatever you do is very important. And like I say, authenticity over algorithm always wins when it comes to social media. I think today we can really get caught up in wanting to have a viral moment and
Yes.
sometimes losing our voice or authenticity. But I've really stayed very true to my content. I really love creating editorial style content. And that's something that, you know, in today's day and age with TikTok and other platforms wanting such relatability doesn't always work. But for me, it's something that continues to, like, you know, suffice and prevail and succeed. Yeah.
Akash, before you started Fable Mane, you worked at Dior, and you were one of the only people of color in the head office. What was that experience like?
So working in luxury and in these big conglomerates, definitely, like, operationally, one of the biggest hurdles is if you don't speak French, for example, in one of these French brands, you're not going to be in the head office. And I learned that the hard way. Day one, I entered, and my team I inherited, and everyone was speaking French, and I was GCSE French, like, je suis allé à la bibliothèque, and I was like, that's what I know. But Dior was very nice, gave me lessons free, and I had to learn very quick. I think a couple of months in, or even a year or two in, I started suddenly realizing, because I was so excited just to be there, you know, just to have a place in this company, that, oh yeah, I'm actually one of the only people of color here. And I've got to be careful what I say. So imagine in any hypothetical company, there was a hypothetical meeting. And in this hypothetical meeting, I was talking about a hypothetical situation that there was no people of color faces for this brand. And I was suggesting some people of color faces. And someone in the room said, what about Mexicans? They're dark enough. And I remember looking at my skin, and I was like, no one's even noticing that I'm in this room. That was actually the aha moment where Fable Mane was really my accelerated thought, because I said, I don't want to go to HR. And again, I don't like going from a place of like victimizing and kind of like blaming. Maybe that's their reality and it's okay. We have to always come from a place of empathy and love. Again, my Shakti spirit, my mom, my sister are telling me this, my nani. So I just said, let's inspire them by creating a brand like Fable Mane, which then we became the first, you know, Ayurvedic and South Asian hair brand at Sephora, that we could inspire them that we can exist. And today it's really exciting because from that conversation, I had a conversation with my hypothetical lead of that brand today. And she was asking, do you know any Bollywood or brown faces? And I was like, thank you, finally we're having this conversation. And I said, to be honest, I've actually got one in mind, but I'm gonna have it for my brand, and that was Kareena Kapoor Khan. So she's the face of Fable Mane today, which is very exciting. And I, again, thank that meeting of being the only person of color in the room, because that was something that inspired me to kind of use that as a passion driver to create Fable Mane, and I wouldn't have done it without it.
One thing all three of you have done really, really well is create a sense of community, whether it's amongst Monzo's consumers, amongst your followers, amongst people, your consumers. And I really want to spend a few moments talking about the power of and the importance of community. You talked about Kareena Kapoor Khan, who of course will be here, and I know you're all waiting for that, so hang on tight. But some of us grew up at a time when we remember Kapil Dev endorsing a product and saying, you know, Boost is the secret of my energy. And, that was great. Some people bought Boost, but it didn't really create a sense of community around people who bought or drank Boost. So tell me, I mean, you've now signed on Kareena Kapoor Khan. How do you see that creating community?
So I think, again, starting everything with what's your understanding of it? So for me, community is family. And all I could do is, you can never plan for these things. You don't know what would happen, if it will be a success from a marketing term or from a business term. But when Kareena Kapoor Khan, she came to us and she found the brand and she was really, amazed by the story, and she was deep diving into me and Nikki and the Tiger, the Fable Fund, and everything we do.
Tiger, please take a look at his shirt.
Tiger.
There you
Yeah.
go.
We
We'll
give
talk
back
about
to
that in a
Tigers. We'll talk about
minute,
it. And the conversation we had with her, it felt like she was family from the first moment we came in. It wasn't about numbers and contract. It was about what can we do together. She was that amazing. Like when we were saying, 12 months, 6 months, she was like 18 months. Don't worry about that stuff. Let's just build something together. And that was the aha moment. I thought, she is family. And then when you have that at the core of what you're creating, then you think about what you're going to do together. So things like, for example, we have an opportunity to do an event with her later this year, and I might be in trouble saying it too early, but instead of doing a small, intimate thing, we're doing something for the community. We're going to be doing a great pop-up in Dubai, and this is how we can leverage a partnership that comes with just a conversation and easiness and doesn't have to be so rigid, to ensure our community can also feel part of what we're doing with Kareena. So, yeah.
Great. Rahi, for you, it is really all about your community online. Like I said earlier, just by spending so much time on your Instagram feed over the last couple of days, I feel like I'm part of your community. How do you have that sort of genuineness between you and your followers, that authentic relationship? That feels like it would take a lot of work, and yet you do it really well. So how do you create that authentic communication with members of your tribe?
It's really about finding your voice on the internet. But one thing that has really helped for me is I've, through the years, learned to compartmentalize Rahi on social media and Rahi as a person in my personal life.
Is that hard?
I think through a lot of therapy, you can definitely achieve it, and a lot of self-awareness and inner work. But when it comes to answer your question, I really enjoy creating narrative storytelling, especially through the journey of luxury. So for me, that's always been my voice on the internet. So when it comes to some of the challenges I face, it's really about making sure that I don't work with every single brand that comes to me, or offers me money. It's really about having that authenticity where I have to really understand what is the objective and alignment of the brand. Is that something that sits right with me, with my voice? Is this something that when I endorse or promote or work on an activation, the audience will really be able to feel inspired and they'll connect with me, they'll connect through the journey that I have with the brand. And I think as I've gotten older and social media and that space has evolved and changed so much, it's really about me also coming out of my comfort zone constantly and being like, how can I change my voice? How can I show my audience who has grown up with me that I've also grown up and matured?
So you would reject certain collaborations if it's not true to what you believe in?
Yeah, or if I feel that they're just using me as a tick box for diversity.
See, that's really important. I would imagine a lot of people do reach out to you because you're South Asian, because you're brown.
But also what they like to do is sometimes just have the one token South Asian person on the books who they can use to help make them understand, right, this is what we're doing for South Asian people, but they're not necessarily doing that. Large corporations and conglomerates and umbrella companies might just have the one South Asian on their books and be like, okay, well,
DEI box check.
Exactly. And when we're doing our reports, for our KPIs, we have that
Yes.
one South Asian person. But what are you actually doing to educate your audiences that what South Asians actually signify and represent, and how are you helping our community? Just having one person on the books isn't really going to, bring about much change. How can you help our community beyond just having a Diwali dinner?
Yes.
or beyond,
yes.
you know, hosting a concert and, you know, having a lavish box, you know, and inviting people for a VIP experience. What change are you actually driving into our community? When I see South Asians, one of the common questions that still I get asked is, how did you convince your parents to allow you to pursue this career? Right?
Sure.
And I think South Asians have such a story, we have such a voice that still needs to be heard. But I think as a collective community, we have to come together to be able to really enforce that change.
Absolutely. So I totally understand checking the DEI box, but
Yeah.
we're also in a world where, TS, we're seeing DEI initiatives being rolled back across the corporate sector. Has that impacted you, and what does that mean for women in the workforce?
You know, Mallika, when we committed to building a company that was strongly values oriented, where diversity wasn't a poster in the office, but something we believed in as being the best way to build a company, we didn't do it because it was the flavor of the season. Right? We didn't do it because there were political winds saying, oh, it's a good thing to do. Right? We did it because of conviction in it. So if the political winds change or it's not the flavor of the season anymore, it's no reason to roll it back. Right? It comes from a place of conviction and believing that you create the right context where everybody comes in, does the best work of their lives, and is part of building something exceptional. And that's the energy you want to channel in the company, whatever form of diversity it comes from. Right? When that's what you're seeking to build, that thesis hasn't changed. That belief that when we do that, we create great outcomes for our customers, that when we do that, we reflect who our customers are. And it's the best way to access the broadest pool of great talent. Right? So yeah, sure, you know, there's a political wind that may be for it or against it from time to time. There may be, you know, media coverage that makes it feel like the in thing to do or not the in thing to do, but so be it. Those are not the reasons to do it, so they're not the reasons to stop doing it either.
That's fantastic. You know, I wanted to come to you with a question about community as well. And in the financial year ending March 31st, this year, Monzo welcomed 2.4 million new customers. More than 2/3 of those came through word of mouth. And that really threw me off. You're a digital bank. You're a bank that lives entirely on the phone, and it's word of mouth that's getting people in. So tell me about that. And do you think word of mouth is that more women talking to each other?
So here's the thing. So money is inherently social, right? In that so many of the things we do with money end up having a deeply social context, right? We settle a bill with a friend. We transfer money to our family, to our friends. We go out to a restaurant, and there's a bill to be paid at the end of it, right? So the way we've approached this all along has been to say, look, let the Monzo app and how money works in that ecosystem be magically simple for the people in that ecosystem, right? So P2P, transferring money from one person to the other, is the easiest thing. And in fact, we've become a verb, right? People will say, Monzo me the money,
Yes.
right? Which is really special, right? Because it speaks to how easy that is. So that builds community, that builds network effects. When people, you know, when you're at a restaurant, even if you're eating by yourself, if it's above a certain amount, the app will trigger saying, do you want to split this with someone? Because it's, look, you're at a restaurant, chances are you're eating with someone, maybe you want to settle the bill, right? You want to take a holiday, and we create this Monzo splits thing where everybody on the holiday can charge, it and split the bills super easily, which by the way was the other insight, that most people are awkward asking for someone to settle a bill with them. So actually inside the Monzo app will trigger a follow-up if you haven't been paid back as yet, right?
Oh, that's handy.
Which is kind of an interesting way to make sure that you do get paid back without having to sort of, you know, feel awkward about it. But so all of those aspects make us build a community of customers. But from day one, we have been obsessed with this idea of listening to our customers and building product alongside with them. In the early days, that would look like customers walking into our Shoreditch offices to pick up their card or just drop in, right? And just tell us something about the product. And then we took that to a digital sort of form factor. So our community blog post is insane. We have like 40,000 customers who engage with us all the time. They won't hesitate a nanosecond to tell us if they don't like something in the product. They won't hesitate to give us feedback. We listen to wish lists that they have for features that they want us to build. So all of that creates this crazy sense of community, which builds more affinity with the brand. And then ultimately what it translates into is that people tell their friends and family about us. So 2/3 coming from word of mouth is because someone told their friends, hey, you have to get this. Or someone said, what do you mean I want to transfer? No, you don't have a Monzo? Like, get one. right? So that sense of momentum, even at this scale that we are at now, like with over 12 million customers here in just the UK, right? That's just continues.
I think we have time for one more question, and I want to touch on this topic of responsibility and trust. And Rahi, you have people hanging on to every word on social media, on every post. How do you make sure you don't create sort of unrealistic expectations amongst your followers? Social media is a boon and a great way to connect, but it can have a dark side as well.
I think when it comes to the dark side of social media, I hear about this a lot, and I have to say I would say I've breeded a very nice, positive community, but I'm very lucky to have that experience, whereas a lot of people on social media have very different experiences. I think when you mentally check out and realize that social media doesn't give us validation as people, you're winning in life, Thank you. You don't get caught up on how many likes and things that you're getting and how many views this particular thing has gotten, but you're actually doing it for the sake of creating art and for people to see, what you've actually created, and you want to share that with your audience. When you've got those sort of reasons behind it, I think it just makes you feel good about it in general. How do I sort of stay conscientious about what I'm putting out? Well, I would just say, because I work with a lot of luxury brands, sometimes it is tricky to not create a narrative which is sort of an unrealistic image,
But you also do produce quite a bit of content that's behind the scenes.
Exactly.
And
Well, I'm
Rahi
trying
with-
to, I'm trying to do that. And that was a very honest conversation. And I'm not going to sit here and, sound like I've got it all figured out and that it's all very perfect, because this is a very open and honest conversation that my team actually had with me very recently, where they were like, we need to show Rahi more behind the scenes. And Akash has told me this all the time, because I think now it's about me also creating a deeper connection with my audience. And that only comes when you show a more raw and unfiltered side of yourself.
And on that note, I'm going to say, please, I hope you've taken pictures. Please post about this event, because as they say, if it's not on the gram, did it even happen? Thank you. And as I promised, these are the men we love. Now you know why we love them. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Barka.
Don't leave just yet. Don't leave just yet. Don't leave just yet. How was that to hear from three men and a woman at the helm, right? That's what this is all about, an absolutely inclusive space. And before we let everybody go, and before that we have to honor them with their awards, one question to everybody from me each. What will you tell your 16-year-old self?
Akash, go first.
No, I've got you there. Go for it.
Don't be so hard on yourself.
So what were you hard on yourself about?
You just think life is over.
At the smallest thing.
The smallest things.
Have all of you gone through that? Raise your hands if you've been a teenager and thought, oh my God, it's all over for me. Well, he's here to tell you it's not. Same question.
I think I would say spend more time with your family. When they're no longer with you, you miss it.
Anil?
I'd say it's going to be even better than you're thinking it's going to be.
Really?
And I'd tell my 16-year-old self that she is the one, yes.
Mallika?
I tell my 16-year-old who's interested in journalism, follow Barka.
Oh, that's so sweet. So, one thing you've learned about life that you want young people to know today. Anil? Oh, you have a mic. Yeah.
Back yourself, right? At the end of the day, life will happen around you. The only person you're really going to be able to back is yourself. Come from that deep belief in yourself.
Rahi?
Yeah, literally, just to carry on from that, trust and believe in yourself.
If you don't see anyone out there that's done it, you can be the first to do it.
I'm the one supposed to be asking questions.
No, but now I'm in the chair.
I would go with Rahi, be the change, try and be the change so that others can follow suit.
So these are four fabulous change makers with roots and history to India who have really made the United Kingdom and India proud. That is the whole point of community here, the whole point of diaspora. And I want us to put our hands together as we honor these 4 change makers. Can I have the awards on stage? Mallika Kapur. Yes, you. You don't have to look so surprised. Come on, guys. These are all my friends. You have to clap loudly. All right. And then we have Anil. Did we already do how many kids here use Monzo?
That's good.
Raise your hand. How many people here use Monzo? Oh my God, that's a lot. So that's Anil. Let's hear it for Anil. Let's hear it for Anil. And then we have Rahi. We have Rahi. Rahi, before I give you this, firstly, you have to look there.
Okay.
And you have to tell me what was the hardest moment of your life.
Oh, there's been so many. When you feel like you're about to lose yourself and everything is over, and then the universe just sends you this amazing this gift.
I mean,
and-
you have 1 million plus followers on
Yes.
Instagram.
Yeah.
What is it that you want them to know about you and
Yeah.
about life?
that I'm not perfect, and life is not perfect, but we can make life imperfectly perfect.
Here you go, Rahi. Let's hear it for Rahi. And to Akash, a young entrepreneur who has Kareena Kapoor as one of his brand ambassadors. She'll be here later this evening, as many of you know. You're like young.
31, not that young.
Yeah. When did you sort of choose this path for yourself? Ayurveda, fashion, entrepreneurship, welding it all together?
I think it was when I failed my second year of university doing engineering. It wasn't very good.
Or did you have the same desi pressure to be engineer boy?
Honestly, I did it myself. I think we are our own pressure sometimes. But I went back, finished my degree, but I said I'm going to do what makes me happy in life and not what is good on a piece of paper. So yeah.
So let's hear it for Mallika, Anil, Rahi and Akash. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Mallika. And thank you, Anil.
Kittens before I got on.